Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the New Jersey Devils, as the Devils are a very, very interesting team heading into this year's NHL trade deadline. The arms race is on in the New York metro area. The New York Islanders acquired one of the bigger fishes in the trade deadline market, picking up Bo Horvat and signing him to an extension. The New York Rangers the other day go out and acquire St. Louis Blues superstar Vladimir Tarasenko in a trade. And now the Devils are the lone team in that New York metro area that is yet to make a big splash. So the expectation is, with considering their draft capital, their cap space, and their draft prospect depth, expect the Devils to be players here ahead of this year's trade deadline. So we're going to go over some of the moves they could be willing to make, some of the targets, the guys they could be linked to here, some of their prospects, the draft picks that could be available, and we'll even do some mock trades. So let's get right into it. So starting off with Elliot Friedman in the 32 Thoughts podcast the other day with Jeff Merrick, he mentioned that the Devils, a lot of teams are calling the Devils on a lot of their defenseman prospects, and we'll go over some of those guys today, and that is going to be a key factor, I think, in ultimately what the Devils do here at the deadline. And if there's a team, we always talk about the LA Kings and the New Jersey Devils with a ton of good prospect and draft pick capital here. The Devils are another team here that could really make a splash as well. So looking at their draft picks this year and next, in 2023, the Devils have their own first, second, and fourth round pick. And next year, they have their first, second, third, and fourth round draft picks in the 2024 NHL draft. So there's a lot of draft capital for the Devils. Not to mention, they have some good prospects that are already on the roster here for the Devils in Dawson Mercer and Alexander Holtz, who have both been linked to trades here over the last couple of weeks. It's a good way for a team to pick up a already roster player that is still very young in their early to mid-20s. And both Alexander Holtz and Dawson Mercer fit that bill. Late teens, early 20s. That's exactly what they're looking for. So Alexander Holtz is a winger who was drafted 7th overall back in 2020. He played in Djurgårdens of the SHL and is developed in the NHL this season and has played quite well for the New Jersey Devils. This is a guy that, talking about the San Jose Sharks or some of those other teams, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that I think would be interested. I think Alexander Holtz would be a really nice asset, but he struggled a little bit in the NHL this season compared to the other winger we are going to talk about right now, and that is Dawson Mercer, who has played very well for the New Jersey Devils, even playing on the power play. Dawson Mercer also picked up in that 2020 NHL draft, selected 18th overall by the Devils. And what's nice about Dawson Mercer as well is he can play center. So he's a winger that can also play center, and I think that's going to be an asset for teams that are trying to rebuild, maybe looking to add some potential center depth. Dawson Mercer can fill out the wing and the center core as well. So that's what you're looking at really for the forwards. I think that's kind of it for the Devils at the moment. They've kind of, they've got a lot of their prospects already playing, and, that's where the Hugheses and the Heishiers and those guys, those forwards they've been drafting are already playing for the Devils now. But the defense is a totally different story. They have a ton of holes on their blue line, and that's because they expect a lot of these guys to eventually jump into the lineup for the Devils this year, next year, or the next couple of years to come. Now, I don't truly think that guys like Timo and Luke Hughes are even available on the trade market. And unless they really like Timo Meier and it's a sign-in trade, I do not see them trading either of those two defensemen. But the good news is it makes some of these other very highly regarded defensemen quite available. And starting off with Shakir Mukhamadullin, yes, that's a mouthful, a right-shot defenseman drafted in the 2020 NHL draft. He was drafted 20th overall. That was one of the Islanders draft picks in the Palmieri and Zajac trades from the last couple of years, and the Andy Green, those 2 years where the Devils and the Islanders made some trades at the deadline, that was one of those picks. So Mukhamadullin is going to be a pretty good prospect, a potential top 4 right-shot defenseman. Teams will be looking at him at the trade market. Riley Walsh, a little bit older. He's like 22 or 23 years old. He is a 2017 third-round pick from the New Jersey Devils. He's also a right-shot defenseman. Potential to be a top 6 defenseman in the National Hockey League, maybe even a top 4 defenseman, but at this point, I would say a good third pairing defenseman with where he's at in his development. Nikita Okatiuk is a left shot defenseman drafted in the 2019 draft. Another third round selection of the Devils. Again, you're probably looking at a little bit of a bigger defenseman than Riley Walsh, but a left shot defenseman and a similar position, probably a third pairing defenseman, if at best, probably a fourth, fifth defenseman on the roster. Kevin Ball at 22 years old, a bigger defenseman, one of the guys they got in the Taylor Hall trade from the Coyotes a couple of years back. Kevin Ball is a pretty good young defenseman. He's played a lot of games for the Devils this year, but he could be a guy that could become available. Ryan Graves and Damon Severson, if it comes down to having to move out some salary in a deal like the Canucks did in an Anthony Beauvillier trade, I could see something similar here where a guy like Ryan Graves or Damon Severson on pending contracts could be moved. Ryan Graves, the left shot defenseman, and Damon Severson, the right shot defenseman. But in all honesty, I think the Devils would be willing to move on from those guys in the summer and losing them for nothing and try to go for a playoff run this year. I think the only reason they would trade either of those guys is to make the salary work for the rest of this season. It's the only way I could see them making that kind of move. But now with Jack Hughes out on LTIR, potentially for the rest of the regular season, well, maybe that makes that move a little bit easier for them. So it's a good thing. It's a bad thing at the moment that Hughes is on the LTIR. It might free up the cap space, though, that allows them to bring in Timo Meier and doesn't cost them trading players already on the roster in order to facilitate that trade, like a Graves or a Severson. So apparently what we've heard as well from Elliot Friedman on the recent podcast, he said that San Jose is, the New Jersey Devils have basically said to the Sharks, listen, if you're trading Timo Meier and there's a final offer, before you make that before you officially confirm that deal, come back to us because we want to see what that offer is and we will probably be able to give you a better package. So if you can give us a better package from another team out there, we will match that offer. And I think that's what you're going to see here from the Devils. I think they would be willing to do that. They have to be careful, though, because San Jose could just say, hey, listen, Toronto offered us their first-round pick, Matthew Nyes, Rasmus Sandin, and Topi Niemela. Well, now you've got to give us that offer. And maybe, Toronto never actually gave them that offer, and San Jose is just saying that to pry away more assets from New Jersey. That's something that, Tom Fitzgerald and the Devils have to be careful with here on trade deadline day, or if it gets to that point, and, San Jose says, listen, we got this offer, and, you're going to have to throw in probably Luke Hughes or Nemec. And if that's the case, and it never actually happened, New Jersey has to be careful not to fall for that either. So it's one of those things where it's a nice thing having those luxury of prospects and draft picks, but it could also come back to bite them because they have those assets. And, you end up giving up more, you end up biting off more than you can chew. And that's something that you have to watch for. But keep an eye out for the Devils because I think the Devils are gearing up for a big move here in the arms race. I think that Timo Meier is one of the guys that is in the race for the Devils, but, don't be surprised. I think Brock Besser, I saw him the other night for the Canucks against the Islanders. He played very well. Brock Besser seems to be playing at a level that is probably tradable at this point. So watch for Brock Besser as well. Just down the road, down the turnpike, I would look at JVR in Philadelphia. Oh, no. Is he in Philadelphia still? Yeah, he's still with the Flyers. I had to catch myself. He's still playing with the Flyers, but I think a lot of teams will be in on JVR as well. I think, teams like the Dallas Stars, the Winnipeg Jets could be players for JVR, and he might end up pricing himself out of potentially going to New Jersey, especially if the price tag for Timo Meier becomes astronomical. It could make it difficult if they wanted to bring in potentially both of those guys. With that said, though, I think the Devils can put together a pretty interesting trade. Watch for my mock trades video, Timo Meier mock trades video, and I'll do an actual mock trade. I have it right here, so make sure to check out that video. I think the Devils are going to be big players here at the deadline. They've got the assets. They have the draft picks, the prospects, and the cap space. I think they are a real contender here to make a move, and that's where you can almost make this a positive. Yes, Jack Hughes might be out for the rest of the season, depending on how things go here. but that actually might be a benefit because of the salary cap situation. The structure may allow them to make that big move that they otherwise maybe wouldn't have been able to make with Jack Hughes healthy in the lineup and kind of that cap space maybe being a hindrance for them. So let me know what you guys think down below. What do you guys think of the New Jersey Devils? Leave some mock trades down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.